more than 75% of the population is dependent on agriculture as a means of income. If we can really increase the soil fertility, which means that the produce will be higher and stop soil erosion to a large extent, stop the drought issues that we're seeing, automatically the average income of a farmer will go up. So we've seen cases of, for example, in Nasik, there is an FPO by the name called Sayadri. All the small farmers have come together. They made sure that their soil is sort of taken care of course, with the aim of getting a bigger produce and better market out there. But the farmer's income sort of quadrupled or increased drastically. So the first step is soil fertility to be increased. And then, of course, a lot of other things need to happen. Market has to be there, the pricing of the products and so on. So soil can play a very, very important role in making sure that the farmer's income goes up. So the first step is soil fertility to be increased. And then, of course, a lot of other things need to happen. Market has to be there, the pricing of the products and so on. So soil can play a very, very important role in making sure that the farmer's income goes up. Both soil and water are tightly coupled here. If there is water availability and soil fertility at rest, we can really see the average income of a farmer in India shoot up.
How protecting soil can resolve problems of poverty and social inequality.
Yeah, so if you can make the soil more fertile, and let's say an average farmer in India, especially, more than 75% of the population is dependent on agriculture as a means of income. If we can really increase the soil fertility, which means that the produce will be higher and stop soil erosion to a large extent, stop the drought issues that we're seeing, automatically the average income of a farmer will go up. So we've seen cases of, for example, in Nasik, there is an FPO by the name called Sayadri. All the small farmers have come together. They made sure that their soil is sort of taken care of course, with the aim of getting a bigger produce and better market out there. But the farmer's income sort of quadrupled or increased drastically. So the first step is soil fertility to be increased. And then, of course, a lot of other things need to happen. Market has to be there, the pricing of the products and so on. So soil can play a very, very important role in making sure that the farmer's income goes up. Both soil and water are tightly coupled here. If there is water availability and soil fertility at rest, we can really see the average income of a farmer in India shoot up. And because the average income goes up, inequality will, to a certain extent, be sort of taken care of.
Role of communities in effective protection. What role can communities play to protect?
Yeah. So as I was sharing, FPOs, which I think it's food processing organizations, I'm not sure of the full form, but it's called FPO in India. These are all communities that have come together as societies. Amul is a very good example, which focuses on milk, but similarly now you have more FPOs coming up for agricultural produce. Sayadri in Maharastra is a very good example. The community came together and they decided that, okay, we are not going to put up with this drought issue. And today they are the biggest suppliers of vegetables through to all the supermarkets across the country. So the communities came together to fight this. In India, one of the big issues is that we have small farmland. So each farmer may hold half acre, 1 acre, 2 acres, unlike in the other countries where a single farm could be easily mechanized because there are 100 acres of land. A machine can sort of take care of it. When you have one acre and 2 acres, you cannot keep buying those machines and they may not even make sense. So communities coming together is the answer. And the more education that you sort of share, and what you're seeing now is the younger generation in the villages are coming together to understand from using YouTube or other sources of information to figure out how to do this because they're seeing other communities coming together. So it sort of will have a ripple effect and hopefully more and more communities come together to do this. So it's certainly something that will really grow from the soil, from the roots. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to now unmute Mr. Vasan. Sir, could you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sarada madam, it was a wonderful experience for me. I'm a farmer. You mentioned about Brazil, ma'am, and
Yes.
you talked about soybeans.
Yes.
But Brazil is the capital of tobacco
Yes.
growing, and it is utilizing its maximum fertile land to grow tobacco.
Yes, sir.
Which
Both
is a
tobacco.
poisonous plant.
Yes.
In India also, Mysore belt has FCB and Burley type of tobacco. In Andhra Pradesh also, Guntur grows a lot of
Yes, sir.
FCB, and they are all using fertile lands to grow poisonous crop.
Yes, sir.
Is it fair on the part of the policymakers also to allow such a poisonous crop to grow?
Sir, I did not
What
add that in the presentation, but using the wrong crop is also one of the big issues. It's a very not a nice statement to make. I'm from Telangana now. I'm staying in Hyderabad. Telangana is a very semi-arid dry state. This was not meant for rice, but today it is the biggest rice producer or contributor to India. You can't say it's right or wrong, but the soil was not meant for rice. But today we are irrigating, dumping so much more water into it to make sure that it grows rice. So it is basically you're spending that much more power to bring in water, lift irrigation, and then making sure that you're raising a crop that is not millets, which is meant for this dry land, but you're using for rice. So some of the times you cannot actually say what is right or wrong, because at the end of it, the farmer needs to make their income. And if someone tells them that with a tobacco or rice they're going to make more money, who are you and me to say,
No,
it is
it's
bad?
not like that. I'm a farmer.
Yes, sir.
I know
Yes,
what
sir.
to grow and what not to grow.
Yes, sir.
I'm being tempted with all kinds of loans by government. Subsidies are also being given to tobacco farmers.
Yes, sir.
And
Same thing with palm trees.
once the tobacco grows, and you cannot grow any other plant on that.
Yes, sir.
Again, you will have to go back to mulching and all those things, and then again to rejuvenate the soil. I feel that policymakers are playing double standards in controlling tobacco. It is not fair on their part.
Yes, sir.
They should not pinch the child and sing lullaby.
Yes.
And what is it you are getting? Some 12,000 crores of foreign exchange, and you are spending more than 1 lakh crore.
See, sometimes policymakers have their own constraints. I don't know whether it's right or wrong. But for example, we did not have palm oil coming in during COVID. Now we have a new policy where farmers are being asked to put in more palm oil trees into the ground. And we have huge palm plantations coming up now. On one hand, people are telling us palm oil is very bad for health. On the other hand, we do need it for cooking. We are importing in big numbers. Is it right or wrong? We don't know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Moving on to the next question from Mr. Prasad Sarpanini. Hello, sir.
Yeah, it was an excellent presentation. So one question is cultivation, a paddy field or wheat, whatever, which has been being cultivated with the help of this fertilizers, beer, whatever, in the conventional way. How long would it take to transform such farmland when you start using purely natural grazing, like let's say cattle-based grazing or with a mix of organic fertilizers? How many years would it take? So my question is it possible to transform the land? And the other thing which I put in the chat box was, you have been talking about cow dung. Maybe just mentioned it is cow dung. I wanted to know whether cow dung has got inherently certain essential nutrient value as the buffalo dung. Otherwise, it's both the same, it's no issue. This one, yeah.
Sir, actually, if I give any specific answers, I will be cheating. So I'm no scientist, I'm no ecologist. But just this is generic information, again, questionable to research. The soil to sort of rejuvenate for Dharmavana especially, I think it took almost like a decade. And like you said, it was not a farmed land. It was just degraded land. By just stopping, any cattle or any further fertilizer addition, I would say it took a decade. But when you're talking about having synthetic fertilizers in the soil, how long will it take to sort of revive again? It depends on the amount of fertilizers, but usually 5-6 years is a given. It will not happen overnight. And that's why people are watching the program in Andhra Pradesh with such a close eye, because there are people who are saying it will never work. There are people who are saying it will work. But everyone knows that the first few years, the produce will fall down drastically. Are the farmers ready for it? Is it even fair? So AP program is being reviewed. There are both takers and people who are dissing on it, but it is something in the right direction. Now, if the farmers are suffering, will the government sort of help them because they're using this method? All of these are very, very big questions, sir. And we're actually talking about specific farmers' livelihood here.
Yes.
We can all have very sweeping solutions. At the end of it, the farmer who has to feed his family has to make a decision. So we cannot take that on their behalf.
Yeah, I do appreciate what you said. a very honest way of you put it, because people also should have the patience, and the tolerance to wait for a few years to see the results and then
Yes, sir.
scale up the whole thing. Scale up the whole thing. I understand.
Yes.
And I was just wondering whether cow dung has got some nutrients which are not there in the buffalo dung.
I'll send you the answer. So today
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't have an answer.
yeah. And other reason is buffaloes, as they're in south, we are more used to buffaloes rather than in the north is more of cows probably. Yes.
Yes,
That's all.
yes.
Thank you so much. No, but one wonderful thing I can only say is this session actually is not about right or wrong. You have really given so much of wonderful inputs which are thought provoking. It makes everybody think and take things further. So we'll stay connected, madam. Thanks to Vishwa
Thank you.
Foundation also. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, sir.
Welcome.
Now I'm going to unmute Mr. Abhishek Bhagat. The next question.
First of all, thanks a lot for this wonderful presentation. What I'd like to ask is that the first person to ask you the question, to have an interaction with you, talked about the indigenous community, to be precise, the indigenous community, and you told that the communities which are producing the things. So I would be rather asking on a different note that the ensuring of the rights of the indigenous community, particularly the people who are living in the proximity of the forest, that ensures a lot for the overall case of fighting climate change and biodiversity loss, and eventually the aspects which we are facing right now in terms of the natural resources, the climate, and everything. So in India, we don't find that much of respect or that much of credentials to be given to the indigenous communities and to ensure their dwellings and their rights. So that remains an important matter of concern. And that apart, I will be talking about the biodiversity, in which pangolin holds a significant place, because this is an animal which feeds on the termites or the insects which are damaging the. Hello, madam.
Anteater, pangolin. Sorry.
Yeah, the pangolin is an animal which is feeding, which basically its diet is on the insects which are destroying the lands, which are destroying the soil. So to ensure their protection, the food security will be coming up eventually, because the more you secure the land, of course, the food security matter is concerned. And the next thing is that I'll be talking about the utilization of the local produces using the local resources. That remains a matter of concern. So how these things are being coped up in the concern to the subcontinent, particularly in India. And another thing is that to fight against the misuse of the natural resources, like there are companies which are corporates which are using the local natural resources, particularly for the concern of the water. The companies are digging out the entire water from the places, and that remains a matter of concern. The conversion of the wetlands into palm lands, as you talked about, the deforestation, and the palm lands are coming up eventually for the cases of production of the palm oil. So these things are the matter of concern, which I thought that I'll be raising it to you, because I'm working on the areas of wildlife crime control. So I felt like to share these things with you, and if you can hint on something like this to further add on. Thank you.
Sure, sir. So, sir, every state has so at national level, we have a National Biodiversity Authority that Dharmavana works with. And also we have state biodiversity boards. So together, now they're working on a concept, or it is something that has globally been signed off, and India is slowly, at least in the last 1 year, they've been very active. It is called ABS, Acts and Benefit Sharing. So in the last 1 year, I won't say huge amounts, but they're trying to give back to the community from where this particular biomaterial has been taken and commercialized. So there are now rules in place, and the state biodiversity boards, obviously in the beginning, it's very difficult to sort of execute these at scale, but they're slowly picking it up, and it is going in the right direction. Can more be done? Yes. But have they started? Also, yes. So ABS is something that I think will bring this change, where the local communities are respected from where, or basically commercially benefited with this approach. That is one. Second, you mentioned about local produce. So I want to draw your attention to Mahua.
Exactly.
You have seen a lot of these social media reels talking about Mahua laddus and Mahua produce and so on. So there are a lot of products that are there which indigenous communities use, who stay close to the forest. Now slowly the government is trying to see how can you do it in such a way where you're not overdoing it, but at the same time benefit the local community commercially. So Mahua is a very good example. Similarly, in Tamil Nadu, what they've done is there is a weed called lantana. Lantana is a weed that is seen in forests quite a bit across the country. It is not local to India, but brought in centuries ago, or maybe years ago. Today, the Tamil Nadu government is working with the tribals in Shola forest where they pick the lantana and they're using that lantana for making furniture. So in New York and UN offices, you will see these wooden elephants that are there everywhere given by India, but they're made of lantana wood. So sometimes if you try to make the weed go away on its own, it will not go. But if you come and you give a livelihood, there are chances. So these two examples come to my mind right now. Similarly, in
Just
the
a case of Shola, the Shola thing, which is indigenously being used in West Bengal, and thermocol has taken a replacement of that thing, the Shola. It is a wheat found in the rice cultivable areas, but it is of immense concern. It is of immense concern for the livelihoods of the local people, the indigenous communities, the associated heritage art with that thing, and for the eco-friendly perspective of using the Shola products. So
not
that
Shola
means
products, sir. Lantana that is found in the Shola forest in Tamil Nadu.
exactly.
Not Shola products as such. So these two examples come to my mind, but we need to do many more. But these are just the beginning of something that we're seeing in the right direction. And ABS as a policy, access and benefit sharing. Now, this is a globally accepted one, but across the globe, it's very difficult to sort of implement it. But we are doing our best. So state biodiversity boards are very open to communication, and anything that you think that needs to be taken to their consideration, they're always open for.
Madam, I would like to suggest one thing. If you are working directly with the indigenous communities, pangolin is an animal which is found extensively throughout India, in various places. Like
We
pangolin,
actually in Dharmavana do not have one. There used to be one earlier, now it's gone. But it's
yeah.
also a very protected animal, so we cannot relocate them or do any of that. It's the
No,
directly
I'm
under
not
the
talking
forest.
about the because I'm talking about their particular protection and the
Yes.
habitats.
Yes.
So they are the animal which are poached, which are smuggled in maximum numbers all throughout the world, in maximum numbers. So
Yes.
that remains an important matter of
This,
conservation for the sustainability of the soil.
yes.
And another thing is that the nilgai that is being extensively killed in parts of eastern, central, and western India because they are thought to be as a vermin or a pest for the croplands.
Yes.
So that this remains a matter of concern, but they are soil doctors because their droppings are important for the nutrient conservation of the soil.
Yes.
So these are the aspects. So I would like to talk about these things. I would like to suggest about these things. My observations are like that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining, Abhishek, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, thank you, madam.
Next question is for me. What do you think about the super hyper materialistic urbanization that's basically called development in today's date? And what is your opinion on it?
In my presentation, I didn't touch on urban. Actually, even in urban areas, the soil, I want to specifically talk about soil. We are laying roads or we are not leaving any space that is cemented. So basically, there is no place for water to be absorbed into the soil. It runs away, then it enters the gutters, and from there it has now become sewage. So there are activities like, for example, HMDA now is working with some non-profits to see how do you sort of safeguard rainwater before it flows away and can it turn to drinking water. So there are very small activities. We've woken up now, very late, but there is something being done on that end. To your question specifically, there is no way that you can stop urbanization. See, sooner or later, they say 60% of the world's population will be in cities. And it is not something that can be undone. It's like once you invent a wheel, you can't go back. And wherever there is prosperity, wherever there are opportunities, people will flood there. Can we make our cities more, a very broad word to say sustainable, and in all ways nice? It's very difficult. City states like Singapore have successfully done that. Singapore being a very small country with absolutely zero water resources. Fresh water is almost zero. They are doing a wonderful job. So when you see someone doing it, there is hope. The new city that's being built, Amravati, at least the plans say that they're going in the sustainable path where everything will be taken care of, right from water conservation to how do you heat the building, cool down the buildings and so on. So when you see these examples, they should be the guiding light. But it is not easy for an existing city to morph itself and change overnight.
But what I really wanted to ask is, like, we've seen the goof ups by China in terms of ecology environment. We've seen goof ups by USA, Europe, and we've always looked up to them and followed them in a certain way after a few years. And while we learn from their mistakes, we are still following the same methods to mess the environment
if you
up.
speak to city planners, right, there is a concept, and maybe we'll be deviating from the point, but there is a Greece way, which is you say, this is my history and I'll stay wherever and I become a tourist spot. Okay, that's where Greece is. Then you have the Shenzhen style, which is the Chinese style. You put the latest tech and build skyscrapers and then make it the hub for commercial activity. That's the Shenzhen style. There's another one which no one probably don't speak, is the Oman or the Muscat style. I shouldn't say style, but the approach. They're rich, they're extremely rich country. But they have remained as a city that has the latest tech to help the citizens and their soil and their communities. They don't put up these skyscrapers. They don't do all of this fancy stuff. They've remained within their architects, styling and so on. But they've adopted the latest tech. So that's another way to look at it. When you're planning a new city, it is easy to sit here in an armchair and say, "Oh, do it this way," and maybe someone will listen to it. But that is not the challenge. Hopefully, the people who are making these new cities will think like that. What do you do with the existing cities that have already grown and in size and they're already supporting so many people? Can you change? It's like turning a very, very big machine in angle. Like, I don't know if that's analogy is right. War is on top of my mind, but you get the idea. So it's not so much as in new cities, but the existing ones to sort of adopt all these. And in Hyderabad, for example, it's a good example to share, not the best, but I'm just saying you have this Harita Haram project, which is now, I think, called Vasanta. I forget the latest name. They've done this whole green belt around the outer ring road. Was it done the right way is always questionable, but they did it. And it's not easy to sort of execute such large projects, but they pulled it off. Now they're trying to do where the city's water is sort of stored well. They're working with NGOs. So sometimes the policymakers are in the right direction. It's not easy for anyone to change it overnight. But people will move to cities. You need to think of it this way. There is no way that you're going to stop people from moving to cities. When internet happened, they said, "Oh," COVID happened, they said, "Oh, everyone is going to be in their smaller towns and working remotely." We've seen what happened. So you can't undo. Think about it, yes.
So what I have observed since COVID, personal opinion, or a little before COVID actually, there started this movement of massive deforestation in separate areas. I used to live in Auroville back then, and it started off in Auroville. Post that, it was RA Colony, then the mangroves in Bombay, then Aravali's industrialization taking place in the Aravali section, while the same government announces green wall projects and everything. And then at the same time, Hasdev, which is Chhattisgarh, Hasdev forest, so Jharkhand and all of these areas, the forest covers are being removed. The National Green Tribunal giving stay orders, getting stay orders for these forests, and still the work keeps continuing. So now I understand when you say people are going to move into the cities, development is going to happen, and people will move into live a better life. But will we survive without the forests that are being removed at the moment at such a pace? Because that ultimately affects the soil that is left outside the forest, all the ecosystems.
Yeah, see, all very difficult questions. For policymakers also, it's very difficult. And at the end of it, we're in a democratic country where politicians survive based on vote banks, which means that what will help human beings will always be given priority, whether we like it or not. Nature will always come. It may not be even in the picture, because immediately the next elections, they need the people to vote for them. So one vote, one person, and that's the way it is. Unless tomorrow someone says in the policy that 30% of the votes will be with nature, which is what our co-founder keeps advocating for. It's a daydream.
Yes, we should involve the trees and plants and be voices for them.
Yeah, so there are some movements like that, but it's like a utopian dream. So yes, the policies sometimes seem very, very careless. At the end of it, in India, I can speak specifically for this country, we have a huge population and we keep forgetting this. So the government, when it makes decisions, you and me are a very small minority. We're saying, "Oh, please take care of the forest too," which in paper they do, but at the end of it, this is very controversial, but when you look at what's happening in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, if you speak to conservationists, they'll give you one side of the story. But if you speak to the security experts, basically the country can be wiped out if you don't have a base there. And so they're doing the right thing for the country. So it's basically, it's always the moral ethics of any decision taken can go in multiple ways. But at the base of it, it's a democracy. People's votes will always matter, number one. Number two, the government is trying to sort of, I'm not talking about party, but generally the government's mechanisms are always in sync with what the global flow is. So for example, there is a policy or a polity called 30 by 30, which is all the countries across the globe have agreed and signed off, I think except US, is 30% of the land and water will be conserved in a country by 2030. It's called 30 by 30 under KNGBF, Cunning Montreal Global Framework. So the direction is there. Now the government is doing multiple things to show that statistic. Whether it is absolutely right on the ground may be questionable. Again, not something that we can discuss here, but the direction is set. Sometimes the direction matters. And so 30 by 30 is something that India is pursuing very, very aggressively. Someone mentioned peatlands here. So we have now more peatlands that are conserved than ever before. So there is movement happening in some directions closer to the city. Sometimes really can't question, because like you said, people will move to the cities and sometimes you may have to make very, very hard decisions. Mumbai Metro is a very good example. To say, I don't want to cut trees, and then millions of people are, hanging in train waiting for like 5 hours commute versus one metro line that will cut a few trees. The decision is very clear, right? So you'll always have these tough decisions, armchair activism, all of us screaming. It is important to share this knowledge. Sometimes it's
No,
very difficult to be in the
right.
policymakers.
No, I directly speak because I planted 800 Indian rosewood, red cedar, mahogany, ebony in a span of 1.5 years. And each and every one of them was taken off after 3 years for making a road, which was completely unnecessary in Auroville because Auroville has formed like that. It's built by people and it went against all of the 3,000 citizens' wishes. But the power shift that had happened in the governments basically caused this to happen. And yes, I understand where like your perspective is well right now. But yeah, I feel really bad about the way NGT is basically handling matters in our country at the moment for protecting our environment, whether it be soil, whether it be animals, whether it be forests, whether it be the green space in my backyard, in my city. So, or the river bodies or the water bodies or anything like that. I'm going to move on to the next question from Ms. Nagjyoti. Kindly unmute yourself now.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity and today's presentation. It's really, really awesome. And thank you so much for deep study. You are saying that I'm having limited knowledge, but I'm seeing with each and every Q&A as well as during the presentation, you recalled everything and you correlated with all the countries also. That is an excellent one. And I think you made my day, and now it all impact on me personally also to look into the soil in the very environmental aspects point of view. I am basically environmentalist. I am having my own environmental own in the sense I'm associated with the environmental laboratory and Dr. Subbaro's Environment Center. I am from Andhra Telugu speaking but staying in Sangli, Maharashtra. Maharashtra is actually very rich in agricultural land, and we here in Sangli, totally agricultural land and Krishna River, bank of the Krishna River, there is all agricultural, this thing is there. But you see in the industry, once the industry is polluting anything, then there will be a lot of actions taken care by the government and the people are having a more talk on this and shouts are there. But related to agricultural land, there is no ETP, no effluent treatment plant and no this thing control over there. These banks of the river, all the agricultural, they are having using their pesticides, they're all chemicals and all. And you see, it is all during the rainy season or during the next crop. This is all runoff to the river, Krishna River.
Yes.
So the Krishna River is mainly polluting because of this runoff of agricultural only, because there are no more much industries over here. Only one industry is there, that is Vasantata, and which is also not functioning in a full form. But these are the basic reason, and there is no rejuvenation also. And the people mainly do not like to drink a river water as earlier. They all are relying on the RO water, and RO water is not at all recommended for the human being to drink, because they are not. We are even paying the tax also to the government for the water, but we are not drinking and we are not absorbing it. And here, whatever the water we are utilizing, that is getting all the vessels are having a scale formation, and all the vessels within some time that the scale formation will be very thick, go on, and there is a leather of the cloth also. The soap you are using as much as, but that leathery formation is not there. This all hardness of the water is getting increased because of these all things. That sorry, I'm going into the water, but only because of the soil only these all things are actually happening. Not only this is only one reason. There are many reasons actually. And I'm seeing that the government is not maintaining the beautification of the river also. And I visited recently to whenever I want some peace, I go and sit in front of the river, and I'm seeing all the garbages and the people, they are doing still the same practices, same as the rural area. Somewhere is the cattle, and some are washing their clothes, and some are, doing anything. But there is no restriction, there is no nothing. So these things are also affecting. So we people are having laboratory. In laboratory, we are having the soil also. We are aggregated by the NABL, and soil some parameters we are analyzing not only for the industries but for the farmers and all. Yes, it is very difficult to maintain the grade of the soil and organic matter and all that is actually affecting, and mainly because of this organic carbon. The compost also, in the compost also, C/N ratio maintenance is very problematic, and I think the quality of the compost is also not good. So I am totally correlating with your this thing.
So just on this water bodies being polluted with the runaway water, both from agriculture and also the industries. So we've always had pollution control laws from long time, and the enactment was not very executed very well across the states. But what is, at least I'm talking from a very optimistic point of view, obviously it doesn't work always like this. The younger generation, the younger IAS officers, they're more attuned to climate change, and also they're supported by a lot of new tech that is coming in, which is basically the geospatial data. So a farmer or an industrialist or someone who's polluting cannot hide for too long. So if the law enactment becomes stricter, and also this data is showing with proof, not like what you see in just the Google Earth or something like that. Now you have satellite data that can tell you land misuse. It can tell you, hopefully in some time, even the soil performance and what is being left into the water at a very minuscule level, which we didn't have access to earlier. We talk about AI and all of that. It is going to bring all of this data together to the fore in a very transparent way. So the hope is that enactment, execution becomes stricter with the support of this proof. It's an optimistic take. Every day, obviously, at the state level, at the pollution officers level, at a farmer citizens level, things are very, very different. But the access to transparent data, I hope, will change this, because the youngsters, if you're looking at data every day and you can clearly see which industry is polluting, it becomes a citizen-centric activity. So citizen science will play a very, very important role. And I'm one of those people who tries to pursue citizen science, push more and more citizens to be engaged in this. One of the reasons I'm sparing time for this is exactly that. So the hope is the younger generation is very active. There is something like social media which will allow you to spread the news. There is something where the younger, I have really good hope for the younger civil officers who are coming into play, who seem to be taking action much more strongly. And also from a policy perspective, ma'am, the industries today, I think there is now a new setup that's been given where they have to sort of show their pollution control. Again, I'm using very broad words here. And also the carbon footprint in a very transparent manner that is publicly available. The reports are all there. So for example, steel sector has to become green steel. Or every industry is being given their targets, including the mining, including all the heavily polluting industries, because it is coming from a global mandate. We have a COP Paris Agreement where we've committed to all of these. So it's called India's NDCs, nationally determined contributors, and this is seen at a global level. So even if the local executions are not happening on paper, they have to show that they are doing the right things. So with all of this, I hope the change is there. It is not going to happen in one day for sure. The reason that you are asking the question is you're worried. And when you are worried, you will take some action that will push, and multitude of these pushes will transform the country is the hope.
Thank you, WishwaTalks, and thank you to ma'am for your all work.
Thank you for joining us, ma'am.